Okay, so we're diving right in to something I think a lot of you are probably familiar with, and that's learning English.
Yeah.
And it can be tough, right? You're putting in the work, but it can feel like sometimes you take one step forward and then two steps back.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people feel that way. And, it can be really discouraging. You feel like you're putting in the effort, but not really getting anywhere.
Right, exactly. And I think that's why today we're going to dig into some of those common mistakes that English learners make. And we've got some really interesting research that we've been looking at that I think is going to give us some solid ways to kind of avoid those pitfalls.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to look at, not just what people tend to do wrong, but, more importantly, how to get it right.
Right, exactly. It's like having a roadmap, where to avoid and where to actually go to.
Yeah, exactly.
So, if you're ready to stop feeling stuck and actually make some real progress, I think this is gonna be really useful for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump into it. The first thing that we see coming up a lot in the research is an over-reliance on grammar,
Hmm.
and I think this is something that a lot of people can relate to,
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's interesting because a lot of the traditional ways of teaching language really focus on grammar,
Yeah.
as like the first and most important thing.
Right.
But what the research is showing is that spending too much time, like just focusing on grammar rules,
Mm.
um, can actually make it harder to speak fluently.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they call it the monitor effect, where you're so focused on getting the grammar perfect that you
Yeah.
can't actually just speak naturally.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's like having this voice in your head that's constantly correcting you.
Yeah, or like if you're driving a car, you know all the rules, but you're too scared to actually drive.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you could pass the written test, but when you get behind the wheel, it's
Yeah,
like,
well, you freeze up.
yeah. So the material really emphasizes this idea that, grammar is important. That's like the framework, right?
Right, that's the foundation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the foundation.
Go
But
ahead.
to really become fluent, you have to actually use the language.
Exactly, you have to use it.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like, think about how we learn our first language.
Right.
We don't start by learning grammar rules.
Right. We just start talking.
Exactly. We're just immersed in it. We hear it all the time, and we just kind of pick it up.
Yeah, you pick it up naturally.
Yeah.
And so what we're seeing here is that, you need that active practice.
You need that practice. Yeah.
Right. Speaking, listening.
Yeah.
That's what really makes it stick.
Exactly.
So I guess for anyone listening, think about how you're spending your time studying English. Are you mostly doing grammar exercises?
Hmm.
Or are you actually like talking to people?
Yeah, were you actually using it in real life?
Yeah. Are you listening to podcasts? Are you watching shows in English?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Right. Because that's what's going to help you become more fluent.
Exactly. And it's like, if you find yourself translating everything in your head,
Yeah.
that's a sign that you might be too focused on grammar.
Mm.
You're not really letting yourself think in English.
Yeah, it's right. You're not thinking in English. You're still kind of stuck in your native language.
Yeah, you're stuck in that translation mode.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's move on to another big one. And this is, I think, something that pretty much everyone experiences when they're learning something new. And that's the fear of making mistakes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
I know for me, I've tried to learn a few languages, and that's always been a huge thing for me.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
It's interesting how powerful that fear can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are so worried about making mistakes that they don't even want to try.
Right. They're so afraid to like sound stupid or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the thing is, the research shows that mistakes are actually really important.
They're super important.
Like they're a good thing.
Yeah, they're like little clues. They tell you what you need to work on.
Exactly.
So instead of seeing mistakes as like a bad thing,
Yeah.
we should see them as opportunities to learn.
Right. They're like feedback.
Exactly. They're
Yeah.
feedback.
So the advice here is just be fearless. Just try to communicate, even if you know it's not perfect.
Yeah, just go for it.
Yeah, just go for it because the goal is to improve over time.
Exactly. It's not about being perfect right away.
Right.
It's about progress.
Yeah, it's a process.
Yeah.
And think about it, even native speakers make mistakes.
All the time.
All the time, right?
Yeah.
It's totally normal.
It's part of being human.
So don't let that fear hold you back.
Yeah, don't let it paralyze you.
Every time you speak, every time you put yourself out there, you're getting better.
You're learning?
You're building confidence.
Exactly.
So instead of saying like I can't make any mistakes, try saying every mistake I make is a chance to learn.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Next up we have inconsistent practice.
Hmm.
And, we all have busy lives, right? It can be tough to find time to study English regularly.
Yeah, it's a challenge for sure.
But the research really shows how important consistency is.
Consistency is key.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
like, if you just study a little bit every day,
Yeah,
it's way more effective than like trying to cram everything in once a week.
exactly. Yeah, it's like, you know, small, regular deposits.
Right.
Over time, it really adds up.
Like compound interest.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so even if you can only do like 15 or 20 minutes a day,
Yeah,
that's going to be better than like 2 hours on the weekend and then nothing for the rest of the week,
absolutely.
right? Because your brain needs that constant exposure.
You need that regular input.
Yeah, it's like working out. You wouldn't go to the gym for 5 hours once a month.
Yeah,
Right.
you got to do it
You
regularly.
got to be consistent.
Yeah,
So I think the advice here is to try and establish a daily routine.
yeah. Find a time that works for you.
Yeah, maybe it's reading a few pages of a book
Yeah.
or listening to a podcast on your commute or even just practicing a few phrases.
Yeah, anything that gets you using the language.
Right. Anything that keeps it active in your mind.
Yeah, and it's, it's like building any habit. You want to make it something that you do automatically
Right.
without even thinking about it.
Right. So think about those little pockets of time in your day where you could fit in some English practice.
Yeah.
Maybe it's while you're cooking dinner
Mm.
or waiting in line at the grocery store.
Yeah.
All those little moments can add up.
They really do.
Okay. Let's talk about another common mistake, and that's constant translation.
Mm.
And this is something that I think a lot of beginners do.
Yeah, it's natural to want to translate everything.
Yeah, because you're trying to understand.
Yeah, you're trying to make sense of it.
But the problem is that if you keep translate everything, it can actually slow you down.
It can really slow you down.
Yeah, because you're not letting yourself think directly in English.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're adding this extra step.
Yeah.
You're going from English to your native language and then back again.
Yeah, it's like having a translator in your head all the time. It
Exactly.
just makes everything more complicated.
It makes it harder to process.
Right. So the research suggests that it's really important to start thinking in English.
Yeah, to try and make that switch.
Yeah, even if it's just with simple words and phrases at first.
Exactly. Start small
Yeah.
and gradually build up.
And the more you do that, the easier it will become.
Yeah, your brain will start to make those connections
Right. You'll start to understand things more naturally.
without having to translate everything.
Yeah.
And it will just become more automatic.
Right. So try to immerse yourself in English as much as possible.
Yeah, create your own little English world.
Yeah, even if you don't live in an English-speaking country,
Right.
you can still find ways to surround yourself with the language.
That's
Like, you could label things around your house in English,
yeah.
or you could try thinking about your day in English.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm making breakfast, I'm going to work.
Yeah, just little things like that.
Right. And when you come across a new word,
Mm.
try to figure out what it means from the context
Yeah.
instead of immediately looking it up in a dictionary.
Exactly. Try to guess the meaning.
Yeah, because that's going to help you learn it better.
It really will.
Okay, let's move on to another one, and this is limiting yourself to traditional materials,
Mm-hmm.
like textbooks.
Mm-hmm.
And textbooks are great. They have their place.
They have their purpose, yeah.
But if you only use textbooks, your learning can become kind of boring.
It can get stale. Yeah,
Yeah, and you're not really seeing how the language is used in real life.
exactly. You're not getting that natural exposure.
Right, so the research suggests that you should diversify your learning methods.
Yeah, mix it up.
Yeah, use music, movies, TV shows, articles, blogs, all sorts of things.
Yeah, anything that interests you.
Right, because when you're engaged and you're enjoying it,
Yeah,
you learn better.
you're more motivated.
Right, so find things that you're interested in.
Yeah.
If you like cooking, watch cooking shows in English.
Mhm.
If you like sports, listen to sports podcasts.
Yeah,
The possibilities are endless.
absolutely.
And the more you expose yourself to the language,
Yeah.
the better you'll become at understanding it
And using it.
and using it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about another one. Lack of patience and perseverance.
Mm.
I think this is something that we all struggle with sometimes.
Yeah, it's human nature.
Right. It's so easy to get discouraged when you don't see results right away.
Yeah, we want to see progress quickly.
Right. We want that instant gratification.
But language learning takes time.
Yeah. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly.
And so you have to be patient.
You have to be persistent.
You have to keep going even when it feels tough.
Yeah, you're going to have ups and downs.
We're going to hit plateaus.
Yeah,
You might even feel like you're going backwards sometimes.
but that's normal.
Yeah, it's all part of the process.
Yeah, it's part of the journey.
So the advice here is to set realistic goals.
Yeah, don't expect to become fluent overnight.
Right. Break it down into smaller steps
Yeah.
and celebrate those small victories.
Exactly. Acknowledge your progress.
Right. Maybe you had a conversation with a native speaker and you understood everything they said.
Yeah.
Or maybe you watched a movie without subtitles and you didn't need to pause it every 5 minutes.
Right. Those are big wins.
Those are big wins.
Yeah.
So be kind to yourself.
Yeah. Be patient.
Be patient and keep going.
And trust the process.
Yeah, trust the process.
Okay.
Let's talk about pronunciation.
Mhm.
And this is something that I think sometimes gets overlooked.
Yeah. People tend to focus more on grammar and vocabulary.
Right.
But pronunciation is really important, too.
It's super important.
Yeah, because if people can't understand what you're saying,
Right.
it doesn't matter how good your grammar is.
It's like if you're playing the wrong notes on a piano.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
the music won't sound right.
Right.
So the research suggests that you should practice your pronunciation regularly.
Yeah. And there are a lot of great tools out there to help you with that.
Yeah, there are apps.
Apps, websites, you can listen to native speakers and try to imitate them.
Yeah, try to copy their sounds.
Right. Pay attention to the rhythm and the intonation.
Yeah, all those things.
And one thing that I found really helpful is to record myself speaking English.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and then listen back to it.
Yeah.
And compare it to a native speaker.
Yeah, you can really hear the difference.
Yeah, you can hear the difference, and then you can work on those areas where you need to improve.
Exactly.
So don't neglect pronunciation.
Yeah, it's worth the effort.
It's really important.
Yeah.
Okay, last but not least, let's talk about the importance of exposure to different accents. Because English is a global language.
It is. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
spoken all over the world.
It's spoken all over the world.
And there were so many different accents.
So many different accents.
Yeah.
And if you only ever listen to one or two accents, like American English or British English,
Yeah,
you're going to have a hard time understanding people who speak with other accents.
absolutely. Yeah. It's like, if you only listen to one type of music
Right.
and then you hear a different genre, it might sound really strange to you.
Yeah, it's like you're not used to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the research suggests that you should listen to English spoken by people from all over the world.
Yeah, expose yourself to as many different accents as possible.
Yeah.
And, there are so many resources available online.
Yeah, podcasts, videos, movies.
Yeah.
You can find anything you want.
And this is really important because in today's world, you're going to encounter people from all over the place.
Yeah, it's a globalized world.
Right. So being able to understand different accents is a really valuable skill.
It's essential.
Yeah. So don't limit yourself.
Yeah, branch out.
Branch out. Listen to different accents.
Expand your horizons.
Okay. So to sum it all up, if you want to improve your English,
Yeah.
you need to be aware of these common mistakes.
And avoid them.
And avoid them, right?
Yeah.
So it's about finding that balance between grammar and practice. It's about embracing mistakes.
Yeah.
It's about being consistent
And patient.
and patient. And it's about exposing yourself to the language in all its diversity.
Exactly. Yeah.
So think about your own learning journey. Which of these mistakes are you making?
Yeah.
What can you do differently starting today? Those are the questions to ask yourself.
Yeah. Good food for thought.
Yeah. And that's it for our deep dive today. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for tuning in.